Thank you so much for joining us. We're from Valley View Elementary, Peckville, PA. It's outside of Scranton. I'm Carolyn Bryan. I'm a second grade teacher. This is Jessica Jeffroy. She's a second grade special education teacher. And Shelby Valvano, she is our school counselor. So you're most likely here because you have some bus behavior issues, which loosely translates to bus safety issues. And we're really hoping that we can share some things that have worked for us and also pay it forward, because a lot of the things that we've implemented in our building that work for us, we learned about a few years ago at the conference here. And we've been going to the conference for 9 years. Even when it was virtual, we were still able to do that online. And so much of what we are able to use in our school and has worked for us, we've learned from other schools who were willing to share their stories. And we're just feel so lucky to be able to share that with you. It truly takes a village, and I think this conference really helps us see that our village isn't just your classroom neighbor, your school, your community, but it goes all across the state, because we're all here together to share with each other and learn from each other. So this is my little disclaimer that if at any time this just doesn't fit your school, please feel comfortable to leave and go to another session. There's been a few times where I've been in a session and then just realized, oh my gosh, I did not read the description. This is pre-K or this is something else. So if at any point you think that this isn't for you in your school, please feel comfortable to find a different session. I'm forgetting I have this clicker. Okay, so this is not the end-all be-all, I don't think, but I do like sharing and hearing other people's school information before learning about what they implement, because I think it helps to give a picture of how their school works. We're a K-2 school, which is pretty unique. We have just our young ones, and we have 525 students. So it's about 8 teachers per grade. We have full inclusion learning support. There's no pullout. We have 2 autistic support classrooms with really intense behaviors. We had 1 autistic support classroom, and it quickly filled up. So we have another one. And we have an emotional support classroom. So we end up having almost 12% IEPs. Of course, that includes, speech IEPs and things like that. Comes to 44 faculty members, 13 support staff, and we've been doing this for quite a while. And we think that without PBIS, we wouldn't be where we are as far as being able to handle all of this. Another really important thing that I skipped right over is our economically disadvantaged students. So there is research that shows that economically disadvantaged students tend to have a higher stress rate at home. And we know that having more stress can lead to, unfortunately, internalizing and externalizing behaviors. So I think that shows, too, that we do have a lot of students who can potentially have a lot of behaviors due to economic disadvantage. Okay, so I don't know if you're going to get this reference, but if you've ever seen Mean Girls, and you think back to the Jungle Madness hallway scene when there's people jumping on top of each other, that is what bus footage can and does sometimes look like. Absolutely shocking, some of the bus footage that I have seen. And that's why it's really important for us to have a strong Tier 1 foundation and Tier 2 as far as teaching our students the expectations on the bus, especially when we're talking about younger students. And I did mention that we're a K-2 building, but that does not mean that this is not going to work for you if you have higher grades. This is definitely not just specific to little ones. That's just what we're working with, but you can definitely implement these things into higher grades too. All right, let's get into it. So here are our bus referrals. It was our highest source of referrals in 2015. And then once we really targeted our interventions and Tier 1 implementation, we've been able to cut down our referrals by a lot. We were close to 150. Now we're continually under 50. Is it perfect? No. But is it better? Yes. And that's, kind of what we're going for. We're never going to be able to fix every single issue that students are having, especially when we have students with so many needs, being bus riders, but we definitely can help to reduce that. Okay, so what are your obstacles and what's in your favor? Our obstacles are that we don't own our buses. So when we wanted to start implementing certain things, we actually had this big idea, and we went to our bus company and had all of our bus drivers and told them what we wanted to do, and they said, no, you can't ask our bus drivers to do, we wanted them to chart out behavior on the bus. And they said, no, you can't ask our bus drivers to do that. That's not in their contract. And even though we have amazing bus drivers, that was, we were a little deflated with that. So that's one of our obstacles. How can we get our students and our bus drivers and our teachers and everyone to be working together to improve bus behavior without asking the bus drivers to do anything additional? Now, that might not be your obstacle. You might own your buses, and then that's not something that you have to worry about. We also have, as you've seen, all young students. So every year, an entire third of the bus population is brand new to riding a bus. And we are a rural school, so we don't have students who have ridden a public bus before. And in the same way that we teach our students, especially incoming kindergartners, that when you use the bathroom, we do bus behavioral expectations throughout the school. And when we bring them to the bathrooms and explain that you can't go to a stall into the bathroom because they've never been in a public restroom in a school setting or anywhere else without their parents and going into a stall with them. So there's these specific behaviors that we have to teach because they haven't experienced anything differently. They've never been on a bus. So that's something that we're always working with. Now, what's in our favor? Having the school-wide reward system, having a solid tier 1 program in the school already, that teachers were using the language, posters throughout the school, teaching expectations in all different areas. So kind of seamless transition into putting it onto the bus. And of course, willing teachers and administration. That's what's in our favor. So just to be a little interactive here, and before we really get into the meat and potatoes of what we do, I was hoping that you would be willing to think for about 3 or 4 minutes, jotting down, I'm sure you have maybe one of the little Hershey notepads from the hallway. What are your obstacles and what's in your favor? Or if you're sitting with your team, then maybe you can just talk about it with them next to you. And if you're kind of stuck, you can borrow what I have. Do you have your own buses or you don't have your own buses? You have a school-wide system or you don't? What is working for you right now? And what are your obstacles? So I'll give you a few minutes just to think about that.
All right, we're going to come back in 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. All right, now we're going to get into some of the goals we have for today. Okay, our goals to prioritize teaching bus expectations to students and to equip our bus drivers with positive reinforcements. Is some of the things we're going to talk about on the upcoming slides. Easy things that we have started to implement and have been implementing for the last few years in our school that has really helped with our bus expectations and bus behavior. So the first one, at the beginning of the year, we found that a few years ago, we always take our students around the building, to the lunchroom to practice their expectations, to the cafeteria. Well, why are we talking to our students about bus expectations? Not on a bus. So we have a parked bus our first week of school, that we have a schedule that our administrator creates for us, that you have a designated time, at least 2 times the first week of school, out on that bus to talk about those bus expectations. And it's really working well for us. As Carolyn said earlier, a third of our population never got on a bus before. Kindergarten, the first few weeks of school on a bus, they have no idea where they are. Our buses don't have seatbelts. They're used to being buckled in. So it's really important that we practice those expectations on the school bus. We have cool tools that our teachers use that we have created and provide for them so that all students K-2 have the same language coming from their teachers, coming from their bus drivers. It's really important that everyone is getting clear-cut expectations for that location. And then we practice and model them with the cool tools at the beginning of the year, and it's really, really helpful for our students.
And our bus company, we just asked them, would you leave one of the buses here? And that's what they do. So for 2 days, the bus they have a bus that just stays parked in the lot. And they were very, very willing to do that, even though, again, we don't own the buses. That was something that we just asked them, will you leave one of the buses? And they said, absolutely. We would love for you to practice bus behavior on the bus. So that's how we were able to get that done. And it's a very specific schedule that that our administrator, our building principal makes, so that it's kind of a rotation, and you have 20 minutes to practice on the bus with your students. It's 2 classes that are put together, and it really, really, I think, makes an impact.
And then also equipping our drivers with positive reinforcements. We have a very strong in the building positive reinforcement system. We have Cougar Cash. We have now brought that to our buses. Our bus drivers hand out Cougar Cash, and the students coming in the morning are so proud to show you they've already earned Cougar Cash before they've even entered the building because they were following those rules on the bus. And our bus drivers are very willing to hand it out, and then they could use the Cougar Cash at our Cougar store that we have in our building. So just that little piece of extending it to another location, just like we do in the cafeteria and everywhere else, we've extended it to the bus. We also use a lot of visuals. So just like the posters expectations in the classroom, our posters for the bus are located by our bus doors where they go out, in the hallways leading up to the bus doors where they're leaving. And every single one of our buses and our vans, we have a few vans, have a poster posted in their bus. So the bus drivers can refer to them, the teachers can refer to them. As they're walking by, they're getting a reminder of, we still have to show Cougar Pride, ours is Pride, Cougar Pride on the bus, and what does that look like? We also are very fortunate that the teacher that does dismissal goes over some of these expectations the first few weeks of school before she starts even calling the buses in order. She's really great with that, and that's helping too. The more the students hear it, the more they're going to be able to follow and practice those expectations. We also have included a bulletin board, and that it's really tiny, you can't see, but that's our SRO that we have in our building with a stop sign as well. Just a little visual reminders. I need visuals as a teacher. I'm a visual learner, so just having the visuals have really helped and increased the students following those expectations on the bus.
And just about the bulletin board too, a lot of the bus drivers come in after they're before the kids get on the bus to use the bathroom. They'll come into the school, and I think that seeing that we're bringing the bus to the very giant, it's you can't see how big this is. This is like a huge wall. And we're going to get into that a little bit, strengthening our relationships with bus drivers in ways that we can, because we don't see them. Classroom teachers really don't see them, except when they hop in to use the bathroom once or twice. But I think showing them also getting a chance to see that we're thinking about bus behavior is helpful, just to strengthen that relationship with bus drivers.
And this is just an example of one of our posters in showing the ways that we are showing being present, being responsible, inclusive, determined, and empathetic on the bus. It's really great for the students to see the examples, to keep going over the expectations, and our bus behavior, our referrals have gone down. So it is working. Like Carolyn said earlier, it's not perfect, but it is helping considerably. And also, we started including our bus drivers in a little thank you communication. Thank you at the beginning of the year, like a starting thank you at the end of the year. Sometimes it's mid-year. We also give our bus drivers surveys, which is something we were a little nervous about because we had so much feedback, like pushback at the beginning, asking them to do anything. But we share the survey results with them, and then we let them know what we're doing to improve in those areas. We want them to know that their voices are heard. I mean, they have a very important job to get our students to and from school safely. And we want to know what we can do to support them in that job. So something super simple at the beginning of the year, a little treat. One year we did donuts. They love donuts. Sometimes it's, on the next slide, you'll see an example of chips, like thanks for chipping in. Something really simple like that. But just letting them know that their voices are heard, that we are hearing them, especially because they don't work directly for us. They're contracted out. Just letting them know. And we do include them in our morale boosters, like I said, and they're encouraged to tell us any issues. And we have a head bus person outside, and he's the one who communicates with us if there are any issues on the bus as well. These are some things we've been doing, school-wide booster shots, just like behavior in the classroom at times throughout the year. You could see maybe some referrals are going up. What can we do to help them? So we do have a 3-minute video clip that is embedded in our PowerPoint, and at the end and at the beginning there's a QR code, and you'll have access to all of that if you wanted to share that out. Just a little cartoon to be shown before dismissal. The first week of school, we really do, at times throughout the year, like a coloring bus, a coloring sheet, which is a bus, but while they're doing that, we talk about how can we be present on the bus? How can we be responsible on the bus and inclusive and determined and empathetic? We talk about those things in the classroom a lot. And then announcements to make good bus choices during dismissal for the week if we see that there is a need for some booster shots. And this is the last tier 1 thing that we've been doing, I'd say the last 5 years. In our school, it's a K-2 school. We used to have cartoons on our buses. We got rid of that. Now our buses are colored. Like there's a colored plate in front of all of them. And the first day of school, because we want to make sure the students, especially the K1 and 2, the first week or two of school, are getting to the right bus. You know those first few days of school. Get them in. They're safe. They eat. They go home. Like, just getting them to and from is a really big thing in kindergarten when they're 5 and they've never been away from home. So all students receive a colored duct tape on their backpack that matches their bus color. So whoever is on duty could easily identify if a student is unsure of where they're supposed to be, what bus they belong to, without having to call into the office or call into the teacher and say, what does Johnny ride? So everyone gets a duct tape color on their book bag to match. And how we handle that is the first day of school, every teacher and faculty and staff member in the building is assigned a bus. There's 3 of us to a bus, and then the vans. We are waiting for them the first day outside. We have our duct tape. We get on, and within 5 minutes, 550 students have duct tape, and they're ready to go for the day. There are a few times where a student may ride orange on the way in, but brown on the way home. So Ms. Valvano, our school counselor, has that list. And she goes to those classrooms, because it's a handful of students, on the first day and just tapes over their color that they got in the morning, just to make sure that that's where they belong at the end of the day.
And it goes on the handle of their backpack, if this is something that you were, would work for you. Okay, so the Tier 2 initiative that we have is called Cougar Bus Camp. This is for students who the Tier 1 initiatives are just not working for, and they need some extra support. It's a really minimal resource intervention. It just requires one adult, 15 minutes, once a week, for 4 weeks. If the teacher or whoever it may be needs coverage, then maybe it's 2 adults. That's how ours works. But it's a very, very low resource intervention. Success to us is that students, after being in the bus camp, don't get any more major referrals on the bus. Okay, so who qualifies for bus camp? any student who gets a major referral on the bus. When we first started doing this, we were doing 2 major referrals on the bus. However, we soon realized that bus drivers aren't writing up major referrals for the most part, unless they're a big concern. They've tried to, they've been talking to the student for a little bit, trying to wait for the behavior, to, trying to intervene themselves before they're writing a major referral. So we realized that if a major referral is written, it is an issue and it is a safety concern. So the student goes right into bus camp. They meet with a coach once a week for 15 minutes for 4 weeks. It's not just individual students. There might be a group of students in the bus camp at a time. And who? The coach is currently a classroom teacher. It's me. And I get coverage from our school counselor, who just dismisses my kids at the end of the day. And we have bus camp at the end of the day, so the students are packed up. They meet me up the office in Shelby's office. And then we have our little 15-minute mini lesson together about bus behavior. And then they go right onto the bus. So it's kind of that fresh, ready to go onto the bus lessons for them. Okay, what is it not? It's not a punishment. I'm definitely a cheerleader for them. And it's not one size fits all either. Again, we're a K-1-2 school, but you can definitely make this work for you in the upper grades. What is it? It's a chance to meet in a small group with someone who's a cheerleader for them, encouraging them to make good choices. Also teaching them specifically based upon what their issue is on the bus. Are they a kindergartner who just still doesn't know the rules? Or are they a second grader and I've seen them for the past 2 years in bus camp already and I know that they know the rules and we need to kind of go a different path in our little mini lessons together. So the lessons are based on the problem behavior. They receive reminders about bus choices. And I think this is a really neat part of the program too. And this is something that I took from a school a few years ago. This is my big pay it forward. A few years ago, there was a school who was already doing something very, very similar, and I learned it from them. And that's why I wanted to be able to share it with you, and hopefully this is something that you can find works for your school. So a letter goes home to the parents explaining your child has qualified for bus camp, and the principal calls home if they do get a major referral as well. And it encourages the parents to, in the morning, remind the student about their bus behavior and that specific goal that we have in mind for that specific student. And then the teacher is also reminding them at the end of the day for those 4 weeks to make good choices on the bus. So right there, that's 40 reminders specifically about good choices for that student, and plus my 4 mini lessons. So we have 44 easy reminders about making excellent choices on the bus specific to them and their specific goal. There have been times where I've had more than one cohort of kids during the week. Probably around like November or December, it tends to happen. Yeah, where I have a little group that didn't get through their 4 weeks yet, and then I have a couple more kids who are getting major referrals, and I don't want to wait for the other group to exit to kind of graduate, so I start another little group. So there might be times where I do have 2 during the week, 2 different groups. But for the most part, no. Okay, so how successful is it? Well, when I looked at the 21-22 data, it had a 62% overall success rate. It's okay. That's not great. But when we dug into the data and looked at what interventions all the students had in place elsewise, then it's 100% success rates if it's for students who don't have another Tier 2 intervention in place. So what that means is, if the only behavior that this child is having is on the bus, then this is an amazing way to replace that behavior. If a student has behavior issues somewhere else throughout the school, then chances are they are also having some behavior issues on the bus. Of course, this is a great program to have with them, but then that's why at first it looks like it's a lower success rate, because some of those students who do tend to have higher behaviors and have multiple interventions in place get back into the bus camp again, meaning they get another major referral. But I still think 62% is better than 0%. So in that QR code is the information that we share email to a teacher. So all you have to do is copy and paste this, put in the name. You don't have to reinvent it for yourself. It's just the email to the teacher saying what bus camp is, what it is, and that it's going to be starting for their student, starting this week. I'll be taking them and having a mini lesson with them, and they're going to go ride on the bus, and I'm going to tell the parents about it. Just letting the teacher know. There's really nothing the teacher needs to do. Their homeroom teacher. Just send them. This is the letter to the family. Very basic, but it's just explaining the same thing. This goes home with the student on the first day that I have them in bus camp. And again, it's on the QR code. And our administrator also calls home when there is a major referral, just to let talk to the parents about the specific behavior too. And then this is the bus driver note. So there's 2 reasons for this. Number 1, when the child first leaves my little mini lesson and they go onto the bus, they're bringing the lesson a little bit with them that first time, where they're taking that piece of paper and I'm saying, this is for your bus driver. I know your bus driver's been trying to help you make better choices. This is going to show your bus driver that you just had a lesson with me. So, and it's also showing, the second part is that it's showing the bus drivers that their major referral was taken seriously, that we've addressed it and are addressing it, and something's being done. But nobody has to go and tell the bus driver and make sure that they know that. This is a kind of seamless little piece of paper. I have a bunch of them printed out, and whenever I have a new student, it's just a way for them to see, okay, this is taken seriously, and the school is trying to remedy this for us. Okay, so now I have some lesson plans that I have ready to go. They can absolutely be tweaked for anything that you need with your students. I have 4 of them because it's the 4 weeks. I base them really on the specific students and the specific needs that they have. I started off with this one to show you because I think sometimes we might miss this part of why there's bus behavior. And one of the things I talk with students, especially first graders and second graders, about is, are you bored on the bus? Is that why you're jumping over the seat? We talk about what we can do on the bus that's a safe, calm, quiet, and still fun option. So we do, I have a rock, paper, scissors video, like little tutorial video. We watch that, and then we practice, and we talk about other things that are calm and quiet games, and we teach each other. And then they, of course, share their little calm, quiet games, too, that they might have. So that's an easy one. Another thing that I like to talk to them about is we talk about what noise does to us, and especially talking, of course, about safety, and that our bus driver's entire job is to get us home safely, and we would never want to be disturbing somebody's job. We never want to get in the way of someone's job that they have. And when we're loud on the bus, screaming on the bus, hitting on the bus, that bus driver can't do their job. So we talk about noise and what that can do to us, and then we also talk about what it feels like when there isn't noise. So I have this bubble bounce video. It's a mindfulness video, and they watch it, and they watch the bubble going and going and going, and then it changes to another bubble, and you have to focus on it and keep focusing and focusing and focusing. And we talk about how that makes us feel compared to how we feel when something's loud and intense, and that they always end up saying they would prefer this feeling, the calm feeling. So we talk about ways that we can feel calmer on the bus. Now, this is the more traditional type of lesson that you might be looking for. This is a clip to Don't Let the Pigeon Drive the Bus, which is an elementary story. And we talk about why do we ride the bus, to get from point A to point B, who drives the bus, how do we stay safe on the bus? We listen to and watch Don't Let the Pigeon Drive a Bus. And then there's a little activity afterwards where students can write or draw, and we talk about what would happen if the pigeon drives the bus. Why isn't the pigeon allowed to? Because it's unsafe, that kind of thing. And then talking about how we can be safe on the bus, drawing themselves, using a safe voice, drawing themselves, using a safe body, those type of things. And all the links are in there too. And the last one I have is another video clip. It's just a little cartoon about bus safety. So it gets them engaged. Again, these are only those 15-minute mini lessons. We talk about safety on the bus. So it's kind of obviously repetitive that we're talking about safety on the bus for those 4 weeks, but kind of hitting it in different ways. And this one is all about children who aren't sitting down and one of them falls and bumps their head. And then we talk about what would happen if the bus was moving too fast and we were out of the seat. And then there's an activity that students draw or write to show what would happen if they're unsafe on the bus. So that's what we have. I really hope that there was something that you're able to take away, whether it's Tier 1 or a little piece of that Tier 2 initiative that you're able to incorporate into your school. Oh, it's not working. No. Okay.
If you go on the events.patent.net page, there is a tiny little arrow on the left-hand side next to the title of the presentation. If you click that tiny little down arrow, that'll open up the description, and then you should see all of the handouts should be available right there. Tiny little arrow.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions for us?
Tickets from the bus drivers, did they give you a hard time about it?
Tickets from the bus drivers, they give us a hard time. Do you mean handing out the cash? No. It was when we wanted them to actually fill out a little form about bus behavior in the AM and PM, and it was just a smiley face or a sad face, and then hand it in, and we could see which buses we could praise, and then we could see which buses needed an intervention, and they said no. They said that was not something that they could do. But handing out the Cougar Cash, they're totally fine with that. I don't know honestly what the difference is. I don't know if it's feeling like they're scoring something. But when just handing out those tickets, the token economy, they had no problem with that at all. Yeah. Oh.
Do you feel that the drivers are consistently getting into the same group of kids, or the kids are mostly in front of the bus, or the kids in the back of the bus?
Not sure, because we're not on the bus. But I don't know. I'd say in the same way that probably some classroom teachers do, too. That might be happening, but not something glaring.
For your cohort that you have for the church
Yes.
program, is that, I'm assuming that's mixed K1, 2?
It is.
And about, ballpark, how many kids do you typically have in that?
Yes, let me just repeat the question. That our cohort is mixed K1, 2, and how many kids typically? Right now I have 6, which is a pretty big group. There are times when I only have 1, and I kind of divide them at times based upon need. If there are second grade students who have multiple tier 2 interventions, then I'm not going to put them necessarily in the groups with the kindergartners who I know need something a little different, and I'll split the groups up.
I'm sorry, last question. Your schedule, that's at the end of the day, is that your dismissal time that you have, right before hack-up time dismissal?
Yeah, so when do I do it? At the end of the day before dismissal? Yes. It's 2:50. We dismiss at 3:05. So my students are really kind of just doing their last thing for the day, which makes it also, I think, a little bit easier on Shelby, that she just has to do the tail end of something, wrap it up, then they get their backpacks packed. And on my end, that's not really creating a lesson for a substitute to do something in the room for me. It just kind of works out that way. And then the kids sit with me while they're being dismissed, and we continue to talk about behavior.
How do you manage the distribution of your like tickets or whatever, like to the bus driver? Is that like every couple of weeks? Do you have a team member who's in charge of that?
How do we give the token economy to the bus drivers? We have a mailbox that's in between our bus doors, and we put Cougar Cash in there, and then the person who's in charge of calling buses will let us know if it's running low.
So the bus driver just come and get it themselves.
Yeah.
So what if you have like repeat offenders coming through?
Great question. What if we have repeat offenders coming through? So, I've had multiple students who have been on my bus camp cohort more than once, but then eventually administration will take the step of suspension off the bus, alternative transportation if it's really a tier 3 issue, things that are a little more out of our control.
And you, because we have 2 autistic support in our building too, do you apply all this to the vans as well?
No. Oh, do we apply this to the learning support students with the vans?
So some of the vans do use the Cougar Cash. That's also a tricky thing because the vans are a different contract than our buses, which makes for like a little inconsistency. But some of my students who ride a van do come in with Cougar Cash. So some of them are using it. It's just preference of the driver, and sometimes those drivers change daily or weekly, so that's a little tough too, but some are using them.
Do you ever have bus drivers that just aren't into it, and if you do, how do you handle that?
How do we bus drivers who just aren't into it, and how do we handle that? We definitely have one bus driver in mind who struggles with behavior a little bit more than others, and I think it's because not possibly effectively using our Cougar system. And then it's more of our administrator and mostly talking to the students as a group. And I've done some things where in the past we've pulled a whole bus, a couple times actually, whole bus up the office, everybody sit down and we're going to talk about all of your behavior together.
Oh,
Yes.
Okay, so I'm jumping in real quick. So we actually, our one green bus has a lot of significant behaviors this school year. It's a bus that actually takes a lot of our students to daycare after school. And so we had a lot of referrals from this bus and a lot of parent reports. It actually led to the bus driver putting in resignation. So we're like, oh, what we can do before this happens, so maybe he doesn't resign from his position because he does well with the kids, just a bad mix. So we actually pulled and had our administrator led a parent bus meeting. We actually had administrator involvement, student and parent involvement, and we had the involvement of the daycare as well. That was an after school meeting. So not only did we and showed the footage. So that kind of brought in a little bit more of like a tier 3 solution, kind of a mix. And we divided our kids up into other buses who had some other behaviors, and we've actually seen a decrease in behaviors on the green bus with that solution as well.
I had a question about students who are picked up or dropped off. Do you have similar PBIS initiatives for that section? Because we noticed, I do pick up at my school as my after school duty or at the end of the day duty, and we noticed a lot of our pickup students weren't getting as many of our cash systems as much, so we had to implement that because they were getting flooded on the buses, but it was harder to kind of model that at pickups.
So the question was, what about students who get dropped off or picked up, the walkers, or the walkers, and if we use a token economy there, or the other PBIS and tier 1 initiatives for the bus, We do. Haven't really noticed, I wouldn't say that there's a big discrepancy between the token economy on the bus and students who are the walker kids as far as getting Cougar Cash or not getting Cougar Cash. But the teachers on duty do have Cougar Cash to give to the students while they're waiting, because we do have a lot of walkers, probably 60 or 70, would you say? So they're all sitting in one area together waiting for their parents to individually come take them out, and it can get very loud. Yes, so the teachers on duty do use our expectations in our token economy. Any other questions? Okay. I think we're early. So you have a couple extra minutes to yourself before the lunch, yeah. And if anybody has any questions and you'd rather come up talk to us right now, please feel free. And thank you so much.